Hello everybody, in this video I want to cover traits. I'm finding them one of the harder things to learn coming from a Python background, and if I can help anybody else with some tips or just a different viewpoint on how to learn traits, then that's a good thing. So Let's Get Rusty, very good channel. I was watching it earlier and having struggled with learning traits via the Rust documentation, the Rust programming language, traits defining shared behavior. I read the intro and it said a trait defines functionality a particular type has and can share with other types. We can use traits to define shared behavior in an abstract way. Okay, that kind of, it didn't really mean much to me. And I watched minutes of this video and all of a sudden the mist started to clear. And I'd already watched a Rust training series on via LinkedIn, and that was okay. But having watched this and just listened to, I've left him a comment here, like at 1 minute 10 on this video, Let's Get Rusty, Traits in Rust, basically explained it in one sentence. Traits allow us to define a set of methods that are shared across different types. And once I understood that, I watched a bit of his video, and then I came back to Rust programming language, scrolled down, and the code which Let's Get Rusty uses, most of it is here. You've got struct, in implementation, struct, implementation. So I'd kind of gathered that much already, but kind of tying the implementations to the struct and then tying the implementation to the trait, all I did was actually ended up drawing it, and I thought that I would just share this as well because I think this really just kind of sums it up. So um, got a trait, and inside the trait you specify the function name. So it's summarize in this instance. Summarize then links the trait name to the implementation. So you see trait has got summarize, the implementation's got summarize, and you can obviously have many implementations and many different structs. The examples you tend to see frequently have two structs, two implementations, and one trait. Um, the one that Let's Get Rusty and the one that's on the Rust documentation will show a tweet and a news article. So two different structs. Each struct has an implementation, and then each of those implementations get tied to the trait. And the key thing here is that by having the trait, you can call that one trait on when you are working with different types. If we go further on in the video, you'll see a bit further along when you actually use, here we go. So yeah, item.summarize. So you can call summarize on an article or a tweet, and you just use the summarize. Is it summarize? Well, it's a summarize trait, isn't it? So you do item.summarize, item.summarize. That's whether it's a tweet or a news article that you're working with. And I'll let you watch this video. I'm not, it's no point me showing this over again. But really, the key thing is to actually, rather than when you work with the code, the first thing you learn in Rust or C probably will be struct. Then you'll learn implementations. Then you'll learn trait. But really, you need to turn that upside down. You need to think of what is a trait and what does a trait consist of. And the way that I'll just show you this as well. So struct. So in VS Code, I just kind of collapsed the functions which you can do with the arrows. So collapse or expand. So just to get an overview of actually what's going on, rather than looking at the nitty-gritty of the code, all I did was just collapsed all the functions and then just considered what are the actual building blocks. And here you see you've got a struct called tweet, a struct called news article. Let me just zoom in on that for you. There we go. So struct tweet, struct news article. Then you have an implementation called summary for that tweet, which contains a function called summarize. And then the summary implementation for the news article also contains a function called summarize. So then the trait also has summarize. So summarize ties the two implementations into the trait. Then when you do your code in main, you can actually do tweet.summarize or article.summarize. And the fact that the structs are different, see the structs, one struct's got username, content, retweet, reply, the other one's got author, headline, content. They're two separate structs because they're representing, they're models of two separate things. So I think all I've really done this video is just to show how I've gone about trying to understand traits. This is not a tutorial on traits, it's a tutorial on, or not even tutorial, it's a documentary on how I've gone about trying to learn traits. And the snippet that is taken from the Rust language documentation, and this diagram is just something I've made to help me understand. So yeah, just trait at the top. So rather than the code, you've got trait at the bottom, then implementation instruct. I kind of just wanted to put this together just to try and understand it better myself. So it's hierarchical, and yeah, so the struct is kind of a small thing at the bottom which belongs to a trait, and then which belongs to an implementation, and the implementation belongs to the trait. So struct, implementation, and trait at the top. Trait is the thing which encompasses all of these. So yeah, just try looking at things upside down sometimes helps. If you already know how to use a trait, then apologies. But yeah, if anybody's trying to learn traits, this video is really just how I've gone about trying to learn traits. So thanks for watching, and I'll be back with something very soon.